Question. And actually, a lot of people are looking to do that right now because, especially in Loxahatchee and Jupiter Farms, in those areas, those are some of the last areas where you don't have a homeowners association. So it becomes super desirable if you want to park your boat or your RV or all your toys on the property. So a lot of people are looking to those areas and considering doing exactly what you are, purchase a lot and then engage a contractor to build them the house, which is a super cool idea, right? Because you get the house you want on the lot you want. And in this case, as I mentioned, a lot of people are looking to those western areas because of the lack of the homeowners association. So super cool idea. I wish you well with that. But to answer your question, there's a couple of different ways to do it. Actually, there's several different ways. So a lot of people get a lot loan and a land loan confused. And there's many different categories, but I'm going to cover, I guess, the main three. So in Jupiter Farms, you're certainly looking at a lot loan because it's already, developed, it's platted. In some areas in Loxahatchee and Palm Beach Country Estates, there's even water and sewer available. So it's a buildable piece of land, right? All you have to do is go pull the permit and build the house. You don't have to do any of the missionary work, if you will, from a planning and zoning standpoint. So that's classed as a lot loan, which is exactly how you classed it. So perfect. Typically, you can buy that with either a construction perm loan. So you'll buy the lot, you'll already have had a contractor selected and engaged, and the lender is loaning you a percentage of the overall project, right? So your lot purchase plus your construction costs. And they're going to require you to have a certain percentage in the deal. And then we're going to discuss how to do that here in a second. But so the first way to do it is to take a construction perm loan against the lot and the construction. Now, to do that, you've already got, you have to have your contractor lined up so that, you can move quickly to a closing and have this done. Typically with the construction perm process, the lender will either build in an interest reserve, so you're not making mortgage payments in the very beginning of the process, or they will charge interest only during the process to keep the payment as low as possible. So think of it as almost two loans, right? There's a construction period, and there's then the permanent or takeout financing. And you can do that with two loans, or what the most common way to do it at this point is, as mortgages have evolved, is to do a construction perm loan. So during the construction period, you are receiving draws. Your builder is receiving draws, and they submit a draw. The lender comes out and inspects the property, and it's not a building inspection. They're making sure that it's completed to the point that's been agreed upon for that draw to be released. So let's say at the slab, and the next draw may be when the shell is complete or the roof is dried in, or whatever the case may be. It's usually around 5 draws for a typical construction. So during the process, when that happens, your contractor will alert the bank that, slab's done, we're ready for draw number 1. They submit the draw request. The lender comes out and says, yes, okay, it's completed to this stage. They release the money to your builder, and at that point, there's now a payment due. It's either made in the form of the interest reserve or you're making the payment. That happens until the property is completed, and then upon CO, you have another closing. Now, you can do what's called a one-time close, or you can actually have another physical closing where that construction loan converts to whatever your mortgage is, 30-year fixed rate, 15, 5-1 adjustable, whatever mortgage product you've chosen. So that's one way to do it, right? Get the land under contract, select the builder, get the builder engaged, and construction perm loan from the beginning. The other way to do it, and what's more common, is you'll buy the lot with a lot loan. The lot loan requires usually, and it's credit score driven, and there's other considerations, but they're usually going to require between 25 and 30% down payment. And the term on a lot loan can be anywhere between, 5 and 15 years. It's all going to vary. Some lenders will put a lot loan in place with a 3-year interest-only window, and then they want you to do the construction perm loan with them to start the construction process. But you can just go out and buy a lot loan with 25% down and a 10 or 15-year term and never build on it, assuming you're buying in a neighborhood that doesn't require you to break ground in a certain amount of time. So that's another way to do it, buying the lot outright with a lot loan. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages to doing it both ways. If you buy the lot outright and you own it for more than 1 year, you can use the appraised value of the lot as your equity in the deal. So let's say you go out and buy a lot for $100,000, and after a year it's worth, and just use round numbers, and maybe this is believable in this crazy market, it's now worth $200,000, and you want to borrow $300,000 or $400,000 to build. Let's say $400,000. Let's keep it reasonable. So the lot's worth $200,000. You're borrowing $400,000. So you have a $600,000 project. But because you've owned the lot for over a year, you can use the appraised value as your equity stake in the project. So instead of that $100,000 that you put in, the bank now gives you credit for having $200,000 in the deal. So a little more leeway. And at that point, you would use the construction perm loan with your selected builder to build the project out for you. So I hope that helps. Those are the two most common ways to do it. The other two type of land loans are raw land and undeveloped land, which are two other categories more driven towards developers and investors. They're usually no more than a 50% loan, and it requires a lot of legwork to get the project rezoned or platted for construction. But 90% of the time when people are talking about buying land, they're talking about a lot loan. So not difficult, but certainly some questions to be considered. If you have any questions regarding that or need some guidance, as always, you can reach us at 561-291-8569. That's the Anytime hotline. It rings here in the studio during the show or pushes to my office during the week. Or visit the website, www.mr.mortgage. That's mr.mortgage, no .com. We'll be right back on the other side of this break. It's not every day that you need an appraisal, whether it's for a divorce settlement, estate planning, or maybe you're appealing a tax assessment, or you just want to make sure you have adequate coverage in your property insurance. When you need a certified appraisal, turn to my friends at soflappraisal.com. That's soflappraisal.com. Peter and his team have been appraising properties here in South Florida for decades. soflappraisal.com. And tell them you heard this on the Mr. Mortgage Show.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel here, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you've heard me talk about the valuation tool that we use in our lending practice almost daily. It's not quite an appraisal, but it's way more accurate than one of those online estimates. And we're happy to run one of those reports for you at no charge. Just visit freevaluereport.org. That's freevaluereport.org. Give us a little information about the property, and we'll be happy to send you your report. That's freevaluereport.org.
Here's another 5-star review.
We started our loan with a different company. They said we were approved, but at the last minute they told us there was a problem. I still don't know what went wrong, but thankfully our real estate agent told us about Mark. I was pretty stressed, but it's the perfect house, so we gave Mark a shot. He got it done. I'm not sure what was different, but I don't really care. We even got a better interest rate and with less money out of pocket than the first guy quoted us. It was a great surprise. Yes, I'm happy to recommend Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now, 561-291-8569.
All right, so we are back. We still have to name the announcer. We've got to give him a big masculine name because that's an amazing voice. But so I'm Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. And as always, you can shoot us your questions to the Anytime hotline, 561-291-8569. That's 561-291-8569, or visit the website, www.mr.mortgage. Remember, there's no .com, just type in mr.mortgage. So if you've listened to the show for any amount of time, but more recently, you hear me talk all the time about the necessity in this real estate market more so than ever about having a rock star team around you. And that starts with your agent. And we went into a horror story last week where that couple lost a $320,000 deposit because they didn't have the right agent. They had some bad advice. And I want to introduce you to someone here in just a second. I'm going to talk him up for a moment. It's a gentleman that I admire in the space. We're becoming friends, but he's done a really good job of crafting an offer that protects his buyer while still puts the seller at ease. And we've talked about me all the time saying you shouldn't waive contingencies. So I'm not going to go any further on it. This gentleman crafted this technique, and I want him to share it with you. So if you're buying property, selling property, or you're an agent who needs a strategy in this market, I'd like to introduce you to Juan Alcala. Juan runs a team in Tampa as well as Detroit, and he runs his team at a very high level and serves his clients at a very high level. So I'm excited to let Juan share some of his wisdom with you today. So, hey, Juan, are you there?
Hey, Mark, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your weekend with us. And you heard me on that intro. I just really want to dive in with what you're doing to protect your clients, yet still getting these offers accepted. I think you have a unique way that you're framing this inspection contingency, if you will. And I'd like to ask you just to dive into that for a bit, and let's kind of see where the conversation goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for the kind intro. I appreciate that. And, when this is wisdom that I've probably taken from 10 other mentors throughout the way and just learning how to navigate these waters. So I appreciate the kind words. But, man, there's been many before us that have done this. So, but the big thing, Mark, and you're spot on right now, right? So the market is, we've been selling since 2012 when I got my license, and it's been an upswing since there. And I've never sold through anything like this current market. And depending on where you're at, obviously that can change. But the one thing we are seeing, for buyers to get competitive, especially when they have a mortgage versus a cash offer, is how do we navigate the inspection period, which is that's the largest opportunity for a deal to fall apart, right?
Right.
And yeah, and so, sellers, and God bless them, they have the upper hand when the properties are an A or a B property. Heck, even at this point, C properties are going at that level. But they typically have the upper hand. And, it's very difficult to counsel a client to waive the right to an inspection when it's not on their best interest or their best behalf. And it's one thing if your client is an investor and has the cash and they're prepared to take the house down to the studs, and if there's a foundational issue, they can take care of it, right? But that's not most home buyers. And in this market, a lot of people they're putting all of their chips on the table to try and get into a property. And what we've been seeing in the market is this waiving inspections entirely. And as someone who cares about their clients, I have a real hard time wrapping my mind around that. Now, people are doing it, and I can't stop an adult from making that decision, but it does go against my counsel, right? And I do believe it's against their best interests because, if nothing else, we need to be aware of what's going on with the property. And then you can make a qualified decision on whether it's good to move forward or not, right? That's the best way to set up a client for success. So we looked at that, and we just couldn't in good conscience give counsel to walk away from an inspection period. So we really started taking a look at how do we approach this in a unique way that can help get these offers won. Well, we came up with this, and again, Mark, bear with me. You probably heard this from somebody else and rolled into us because I'm always looking for an angle, right? But we came up with this worry-free inspection period, which is essentially what we're doing is we're going to the seller and giving them a vote of confidence that we're not going to nickel and dime them to death, which is a major concern for most sellers, especially in a market like this where they just don't have to entertain offers like that.
Right.
So what we found is the best way up front is just to remove that mindset. If we can put them in a position where psychologically they understand where we're coming from, it really kind of opened up the door to get these offers accepted. So what we do is we use this worry-free inspection period. And what we do is we sit down with our client and we say, hey, we understand you love this property. This is your number one on the target list, and you're willing to take some risk here, right? And, they'll respond yes or no. And from that point, what we do is we sit down with the buyer and say, okay, look, we know you're willing to take a risk on this property. Okay, so let's look at the inspection as a whole, because you're going to most likely be up against other